A new world order is coming. I'm your host, Steve Van Metre, and thanks for joining me today. In our lead story today, global elites are on their way to Davos to plan what the world will look like after the Great Reset. Now, many people believe we will wake up one day and the world will look entirely differently once the system is reset. But in my view, it's going to look and go in this way. We are first going to have a global recession, which we can see already is in the process of happening. Now, the seeds of this recession started back in the pandemic, because before we had the pandemic, the global economy was not synchronized. But as you recall, we shut the entire world down and countries emerged largely at the same time from it. And now, perhaps for the first time in modern history, the entire world is in sync. Following the recession, what we will expect to see is political elites and central bankers alike. They will use their old playbook and hope their tricks of the past work with massive amounts of fiscal and monetary stimulus. And of course, we know, based on what just happened in the pandemic, it will actually work. But the problem is they don't have enough of it, as they'll tap out all of their last reserves to do it. From there, the global economy will enter a deep recession or depression, and it will be at that point that the world and citizens of the world will stand up and say, I've had enough, and this is where you'll see the Great Reset begin, as these global elites, as we're going to see what they're planning and what the world's going to look like, are going to step up and say, don't worry, we have a solution. Now, before we get into that, I want to go and look at what the mainstream media's view of this meeting is about, so you can see just how benign it is. And then we're going to go look at the meeting agenda and figure out what they're really up to. And you're going to see it's some pretty heavy stuff. So let's kick over to Bloomberg with a headline: cost of living crisis is top immediate risk for Davos elite. And so you look at that alone and you're saying, yeah, that's my problem too. They're getting together and they're going to solve my number one problem of this cost of living crisis. How wonderful. But again, this is just what the mainstream media wants you to hear. Its Global Risk Report, an annual poll of 1,200 government, business, and civil society professionals compiled by the Geneva-based foundation, suggests there will be little respite from countries grapple with energy, inflation, food, and security crises. And no doubt all of those are true. We know there is an energy shortage. We know that's a problem. We know inflation's a problem. We know there are food shortages. And we know a lot of these aren't going to get any better. And of course, we have security crisis. We know this is not going to improve overnight. So again, you see that, hey, they're just getting together to see if they can solve some of the most critical problems facing the world today. Very few leaders in today's generations have been through these type of traditional risks around food and energy, while at the same time battling what's coming up in terms of debt. We're going to need a sort of new type of leadership that is more agile. So you get, again, this is the same old story. We need to get rid of the current power base and bring in a new group that can handle this, that is trained and groomed to deal with these issues. Of course, we perhaps don't have that, but no doubt we'll be told who they are soon enough. The report calls for global cooperation, but warns that if governments mishandle the current crisis, they risk creating societal distress at an unprecedented level as investments in health, education, and economic development disappear, further eroding social cohesion. And again, that's what they actually want, because in order to get people to buy into a great reset of a new world order, well, you have to get them to the point where they don't want the current one. So you can kind of see the setup, as I mentioned. We have a recession, and then of course that comes out of a massive expansion from fiscal and monetary stimulus, and then you have the big one, the big global depression, and policymakers then say, hey, I'm tapped out. I can't take rates any lower, or I am and it's not doing anything. Well, or we can't do any more fiscal stimulus because inflation's out of control and the debt is so big that it will never be manageable. So I want you to see exactly, again, the mainstream media's kind of portray of what's going on here. And so now let's look at the program of what the World Economic Forum is all about. And I want you to see down here is, therefore, thematically, the program will have the dual focus of looking at the levers to address the current challenges while at the same time setting them up against the backdrop of attendant system transformation imperatives, and again, fancy words for global reset, because that's actually part of the plan. You're going to see that here in a moment as we get into this, because what they're looking at is something transformative, something that changes everything. And one thing that does that is my CTA-Timer report. And of course, now because of the holiday, the price is going to go up for new subscribers on Tuesday to $30 a month. Let's take a look at this real quick again, because a lot of people keep asking, how can the market go up? Well, on Monday's show, which will be the chart show, we'll get into the machine position again, and you're about to see the machines kick this market in a big way, but you'd already know what they're doing if you had this report. Again, it's $20 right now, going to $30. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee if you want to try it out. Here you can see S&P futures. The fast machines are now moved 100% long, and they bought up on Friday to do that. The slower machines are getting ready. They're getting in position to move up, and you see the NASDAQ. Why is it rising? Because the machines are buying here. They're the ones that are driving the tape, so to speak. And again, $20 going to $30 on Tuesday. Grab it while you can. All right, so let's get into the program of the World Economic Forum. By the way, the link for that is in the description below. A lot of people say, you don't tell us where it is. It's in the description. Click the show more button. You'll find it right down there. All right, so let's take a look at the program here, and I want you to see the Great Reset theme going across all of these. Addressing the current energy and food crises in the context of a new system for energy, climate, and nature. And so here again, you see this. Let's go down here because they put it toward the end. Rather than using an ongoing crisis as a pretext to forego policies that support the transition to more sustainable energy sources, this moment should be utilized to develop more ambitious, comprehensive, and sustainable infrastructure investment plans to help the world meet its 2030 targets. Again, that would be for sustainable energy. And while that would be great, and someday I hope we have sustainable energy, we know the technology today doesn't quite work as well as we really need to. So you can see by switching to sustainable energy, there is a power of control over people here to say, well, I'm sorry, we didn't get enough wind or sun or whatever today. So you're going to have to go to bed probably pretty early because electricity is getting shut off at 8 tonight or whenever, and you give the people, you take away that power, you create energy inflation. You can see it happening right here. So they're going to use energy as a tool to control people. Addressing the current high inflation, low growth, high debt economy in context of, again, a new system for investment, trade, and infrastructure. So you can see they're already saying high inflation, low growth, high debt economy. What they're saying is, look, the current system doesn't work. All the problems that you have are because of the system. And look, we've got something better. Let's go and look what they're planning here. In a multipolar world, refashioning the economic agenda along strategic lines and rebuilding trust in the, here you go, international system will take careful collaboration between all stakeholders and a new vision for economic prosperity and development. So what you're seeing here is when you're referring to the system that's not working now, what they're talking about is the dollar as the global reserve currency. Now, throughout history, there's been one country that's held that reserve. What you're starting to see now is the groundwork, not for a crypto base. I know a lot of people think that's where this headed. No, one where the global reserve currency is a basket of all the major currencies. So if you debase yours against the basket, well, you will have repercussions from that. So again, you'll want to play along with what everybody in the world is doing because everybody's currency is mixed in the basket. That is where they're headed. Addressing the current industry headwinds in the context of, again, a new system for harnessing frontier technologies for private sector innovation and resilience. Sounds good, but get this, they will also need to realize stakeholder capitalism through core business and operating models, not only to drive resiliency today, but also to shape the future enviroeconomic prosperity. To do so successfully, collaboration, again, we think working together, must be strengthened across increasingly diverse ecosystems. You're thinking countries here, including competitors, companies, and other industries and innovators. And the way I read this is, hey, you just developed some really useful new technology. Well, instead of the capitalistic society where you could sell that and make a lot of money and enrich your investors, well, in the new world, you're going to need to share that because everybody will need to benefit, and you'll even have to give it to your competitors. Addressing the current social vulnerabilities in the context of a new system for work, skills, and care. This is going to blow you away. This moment calls for a new social contract. Now, I want you to understand the word social contract is something that everybody in society agrees to for the greater good of society. It doesn't mean you'll like it. It just means that's what it is. That supports strong investment in education, skills, and healthcare that fills unmet demand. Keyword, social contract, unmet demand, lays the ground for social mobility and untimely future-proofs economy. And what that's saying is, hey, I don't care what kind of job you want. We need more teachers. We need more healthcare workers. We need these kind of people. And guess what? You're going to go do that. Addressing the current geopolitical risks in the context of a new system for dialogue and cooperation in a multipolar world. This is elimination of wars is what their objective here. The geopolitical vein turned from cooperation to competition. So we want to eliminate competition as there's a growing need for a new global system that is more stakeholder based and equipped to handle the dynamics of the 21st century. You think about this as real simple. If everybody is invested in something around the world, no one will want to see that place invaded or that structure removed or someone take it over because they all will have a vested interest in this. So what you're seeing now is a global stock market where people will be investing broadly in literally everything from around the world to make sure that the new world order that these elites at Davos are planning will go according to plan. So now you know when you see the mainstream news say, hey, this is not a big deal. It's just a bunch of really powerful people, really rich people, really smart people getting together to solve the problems that you have. What you can see from the beginning of the pandemic all the way to the recession, we are actually looming and headed toward where they're headed. And watch and see what happens. Out of the recession, you watch central bankers, political elites, they'll play their cards. And after that, well, that's when the Great Reset comes into play, when the Great Depression happens again. And with that, I'm Steve Van Metre. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being fans. Bye now.